Welcome everybody to the first recap of Reykjavik Open. As you can see, I am surrounded by a bunch of chessboards, and that is because I am right now in the playing hall where more than 400 people played today their game. Now this is round number 1, and typically in round 1, I am the one who's higher rated in the pairings because, I'm like 2100, so typically I'm like in the top half, but in this tournament, I was actually playing someone stronger than me the first round. And this was not just someone that was stronger than me, this was someone who has been 3,100 rated on chess.com. That's almost Hikaru level. He was 2,300 FIDE rated, born 2001, so he was 22 years old, and a FIDE master. But when I was preparing against him before the game, and I saw his chess.com rating, I knew that this guy was not just 2,300. This guy could play insanely well. Maybe he had even the level of a GM. I had no idea. So I was quite scared before the game started, and I decided to talk to him to kind of ease the nerves. So I asked him a couple of questions. I asked him how long he's played chess, and he told me he's played since he was 10 years old, and that he's right now trying to become first in IM, but that he's definitely going for a GM, and that he plays a lot of chess. So here we have the game. It started with d4. I replied d5, c4, e6, and now here we had a Catalan. And I was expecting him to play the Catalan because, well, I saw that 1, he plays it always in classical games, and 2, he always plays it on chess.com as well. So I was really expecting this, and I went for one of my favorite lines, which is going for this check, bishop b4 check. Now I played this line against Magnus Carlsen as well, and there's a bunch of ways you can reply here, but he went bishop d2. Now the idea of going bishop here check is that I'm basically saying, hey, you want to get your pieces out, you want to get your bishop and knight out, I'm going to force you to place this bishop in a weird square, and basically this bishop is not going to be kind of out of place. Like the bishop would rather be here than here, because here the bishop is blocking the queen, it's blocking the square for the knight, so the bishop is not so well placed here. And then after the bishop goes there, then I go back to e7 and just let him have the bishop here instead. So bishop g2, c6, this is one of the main theoretical lines in this bishop b4 check line, and I actually really like this. I would recommend you guys looking into this line against the Catalan if you don't really know what to play against it, because it's one of my favorite lines. And now here he played queen c2. The idea of this is that he wants to defend the c4 pawn. If he's not careful, at some point I'm simply going to grab his c4 pawn and I'm going to be very, very happy. So he was playing out these moves pretty quickly. I got the knight out, and at this point, actually, it was the first time that I went with my bishop here. Typically, I go with my bishop here. And you may say this doesn't make any difference, but actually there's a difference, which is that when my bishop is here, sometimes he can place his bishop over there on f4 and take control of this diagonal. So in this position, I decided to go for the move knight e4. Now this move is, well, my opponent called it an inaccuracy. It's maybe not the best move, but it's not like a terrible move. It's just that maybe my knight doesn't want to be up here yet. Maybe this is a little bit too early. So maybe I should castle first and then take the decision on if I want to place my knight here. The idea of going knight e4 is just simply that I want to really centralize a knight in the middle. Like, I want to put the knight there, I want to put the pawns, and I just want to create a blockade with my knight. Like, I want my knight to be the greatest piece on the board. I just want it to be amazing, you know? So that's why I put my knight over there. And then he went knight c3, and here I reinforced it with f5, just really defending this knight. And then here he went bishop f4, and now if I'm not careful, if I would not do something, like castling, which is what I did, if I, let's say, went a6, he actually has this tactic of going takes, and now boom, my queen on d8 is trapped. So I had to be really careful after bishop f4, as we can see that my queen doesn't have a lot of squares. So I simply went castle. Could also have gone g5, which perhaps would have been the best option here, kicking away the bishop and gaining a lot of space. But I was scared of opening up my king so much, because guys, you know what they tell you, you know what GMs tell you, don't open up your king. Your kings need to be safe in a box, and I sometimes don't know when I should apply that rule or not. So in this position, actually, I should have gone g5, gone a little bit of space, kicked away the bishop as it was with the tempo, but I didn't do it. And so here, instead, I castled, and he went knight e5. Now, after the game, my opponent was telling me, Anna, I played a very sloppy game. I played a very bad game. Very bad, very bad. Can't go 95. Terrible move. And so 95 is actually not like a fantastic move that he did, but I mean, it's definitely not that bad. The issue with 95 though is that it allows me to equalize very quickly. So after he places the knight in the center, I simply capture it, I exchange it, and now his bishop is stuck on e5. And here, this was actually a key position in the game, because I had looked at a lot of games prior to this where I had seen that one plan that many people such as Magnus Carlsen had in this line of the Catalan was to at some point go b6. Now, did that mean that I knew when I should go b6? No, but I knew that at some point you can go b6 with the idea of developing this bishop over here. Because my bishop, my light squared bishop, this one, it's actually really bad because it's being blocked by a bunch of pawns. And when a bishop is blocked by pawns, it almost becomes a pawn itself. This bishop is terrible right now. So I needed to somehow open up some diagonals for it to get it out. And so in this position, I decided to go for b6. Now b6 was my first mistake. b6 was a mistake. This was not a good move. My mom used the moves. This was the first move I didn't like that you did, which is a very nice way of putting, Anna, you did a big mistake. b6 is not a good move. But here, actually, what I should have done instead is that I should actually have retreated my knight to d6, put pressure on this pawn, and then even retreated my knight to f7 to kick away this bishop. I should have played against this bishop, which is an idea that I find really interesting. But here I went b6, because I wanted to get my bishop out, you know? And here, he did what I thought he was going to do, which was that he took, and here I had to take back with this pawn, because if I go ahead and I say, you know what, I want to take with this one for whatever reasons, then actually I have the issue that you can see that this pawn over here is hanging. Queen takes c6, my pawn is hanging. So I don't have the option of that. I need to capture with my weak c pawn so that it's never hanging in any of the positions. So here he went rook c1, and I thought here that I was worse. I was also starting to think a lot because, well, I was starting to get a little bit stressed out. I didn't like my position that much because, one, I hated this bishop. I thought it was just so annoying. I hated that he had control of the c file, and I hated how bad my bishop was. And if I ever went something like bishop a6, well, then he was going to have queen a4, and I just did not like that. So I didn't know where to put my bishop. And so here I decided to just simply get rid of this one. So I went bishop f6, which is a good move. Knight takes, and here, this was also kind of like an important moment. I decided to capture with the f pawn because, you know, capturing towards the center. Yay. But the thing is, guys, that rules that people tell you don't always apply. Even the rules that I give you, they don't always apply. And that is like, you become a good chess player when you basically can choose when rules apply to you or not. Like when you can understand that, that's when you're a good chess player. Now, I really thought here that I had to take towards the center. I briefly thought, okay, what happens if I take with this pawn? Because I have two options, either take with this one or this one. And so I said, what happens if I take with this one? And the reason I didn't like it was because I wasn't happy about this file opening up, and I wasn't happy about my rook being stuck behind this pawn. So I thought it makes more sense to take with this pawn. But you see what the issue becomes is that now this diagonal over here becomes really strong for my opponent's bishop. And so my pawn here on e6 is now going to very easily be targeted. And that is a bad thing. So if I would have captured with this pawn, I would also have opened up for this square with the queen, which would have been really good because my queen would have been able to be placed in a fantastic square. So, you know, basically trying to open up squares for your pieces, that's a good thing, which I forgot about. So here I captured, I knew in queen c6, and now I started sweating a little bit because these pieces were coming towards, you know, my side of the board, and it's always a little bit stressful. So I went bishop d7, which is the only move, kicking away the queen and also defending my rook. Queen d6, he decided to still stay in my part of the board, and I went rook c8. Now here you went bishop h3, and this was a mistake. Now you know what happened here, guys, was that I had at this point thought down for quite a long time. Like I had here maybe like 30 minutes, which for like 22 moves, this is classical chess, it's like quite little. So I was really stressed. So I had already made the decision that when I put my rook on c8, which is just basically to open up the file, I had seen that it was going to go bishop h3. And in my brain, that I thought about a few minutes ago, the only way to defend this e6 pawn, we can see now that my e6 pawn is hanging, was to go queen e8. I did not for a second consider queen e7. Now I went queen e8, and when I dropped the queen there, I said, Anna, why did you not go queen e7? This is a much better move because one, it connects the rooks, so the rooks are connected, but also it forces a queen trade, which is really important as my opponent's queen is so strong here. My queen sucks in comparison to this queen. So I knew it immediately, and I mean, I think that one can see it like, the regret in my face, and I hate the feeling of regret in chess. I mean, it's one of the worst feelings, and I immediately regretted it. So I went queen e8, realizing my mistake, and this was actually a big turn point in the game. If I would have gone queen e7 instead, it would have been completely equal. I would have no issues in this position because the main source of my issues is my opponent's queen. So he did this move that was really good, rook c7, threatening my bishop and really putting a lot of pressure in the position. And here I pretty much have to get rid of the rooks, otherwise he's going to double them up. I got rid of one, and then I decided to change more pieces. And here we are in a queen, bishop, and rook endgame, where basically my bishop is terrible, my pawns are really bad, and my pieces are just not active. So here my opponent is quite a lot better. But the game was not over. There were still a lot of tactics in the position. Probably here I should just go bishop c8 and defend, but I decided to go for tactics because I'm Anna, I love tactics. So I went for queen h5, which is maybe objectively not the best move. But queen h5, the idea is that he's threatening his bishop, and now if he would, for instance, defend it, if you would go like king g2 to defend it, I actually have a lot of counterplay here. With bishop b5, I'm going to capture the e2 pawn, and I'm going to get a lot of light squares. And even though I lose a few pawns in the process, I'm going to get a lot of counterplay. But obviously, he did not allow me to do that. So instead of defending the bishop, he decided to capture mine. I captured his bishop, and now he went queen takes a7. And I went queen f5 because I wanted to put some pressure on his e5 pawn. I thought that if I don't take some material, then I'm just going to be completely lost. So he captured on b6, and in this position, I have a move which is actually amazing. It's an amazing idea. And I had no idea about this until my mom, who's a grandmaster, told me after the game. She was like, Anna, there's this one point where you could go for a crazy idea. And maybe if he did not see it, you could have done a beautiful checkmate. And I was like, what? And actually, it's in this position where after he captures on b6, I captured on e5 because I wanted to be equal material or just be a pawn down. I didn't want to be 2 pawns down. But here I can go for h5 with the idea of simply attacking the king. And so here, let's say that he doesn't care, he goes b4 or something. I go h4. And here, let's say that he goes a4 or something, he doesn't care. Then after I capture his pawn, h takes, and queen h3, he cannot keep on moving these pawns because then I'm going to have this insane move, king f7. What? You may say, Anna, what? Why are you going on a king run? Well, because actually the idea here is to bring a rook to h8 and then to checkmate on h1. Look at that. I'm opening up a path for the rook, which I just find absolutely beautiful. And the most beautiful thing is that even though there is some checks, because my queen is defending this pawn, my opponent will not be able to keep on checking. My king is perfectly safe on g6, and this is actually just a winning position for me. So this would have been a fantastic chance to go h5 and to try to go for this idea, because even though it's not like objectively winning, chess is all about, going for practical moves, right? Like, I'm not playing an engine, so maybe I would have been able to trick him. So queen takes e5, I went for this, and then he went b4, and I saw the idea of going h5 and like start pushing here, but I thought that I was going to be too slow because I saw his pawns just simply pushing and promoting. So I decided to go for d4 to try to cut off this queen. I was trying to somehow get a queen to f6 and force this rook to stay here to try to get some counterplay against the king, but it was hard to do that because he moved this rook immediately, targeting my pawn. And here I cannot move my rook to defend the pawn, so I pushed it. He cannot capture because takes, boom. there's going to be queen check, and then boom, queen check. I win the rook, so he cannot capture. So instead he went queen e3, which is just a great move. I mean, this guy just played the best moves, like pretty much all the time. He was just playing really good moves throughout the whole game. So I went queen b2, and the idea of this was that I wanted to capture here, but this was actually an inaccuracy. I should have gone queen d5, just to simply defend my pawn and capture this one on a2. I should have gone for that. Instead here, there were a couple of pawn exchanges, and I ended up being in this position 2 pawns down. So I gave a little bit of air for my king because I didn't want to get back ranked, but this position here was pretty hard. There wasn't much I could do, and I was also really low on time here. Like I think I had like a minute here or something, so I was like really rushing, and yeah, I got really stressed. And then in this position, he's forcing the queen trade, which if he forces the queen trade, it's just over. So he did that, and then I did a few more moves, and then I resigned here. Because I'm in a rook endgame, 2 pawns down, this king is going to be able to get right over here, threaten my rook, and either this pawn is going to promote, or best case scenario, I'll be able to win this a6 pawn, but then he's just simply going to win by picking up these pawns with the king, right? If I leave my king and go to the other side, he's going to be able to bring in his king and capture my pawn. So here I lost the game, but my final chance was this h5 and just going for this crazy attack. That would have been really cool. And you know, I'm tactical Anna. I would have loved to go for something like that. I wish I would have seen that idea, but I never did. But anyways, I lost the first game, unfortunately, of Reykjavik Open, but I was playing against a really strong guy, and we will see how far he goes in this tournament. Tomorrow, I'm playing round number 2, and it's at 9 a.m. Iceland time. So it's going to be super early. There's a double round tomorrow. I'm playing rounds 2 and 3, 2 rounds in one day. It's going to be hard. The second round starts at 4 p.m. and I'm playing a 1700 rated kid. And it's kind of terrifying though, because he was born in 2009. And you guys know that I have a story of playing underrated kids. So when I see 1700, born 2009, so 13 years old, there's like a red alarm that rings, you know? Like, I'm like, okay, I'm playing an underrated kid, so I am fully ready tomorrow to play an underrated kid. So guys, wish me luck for tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow with the recaps of round 2 and 3. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to tune in to my live stream on twitch.tv/Anna Cramling to follow all of these games live with commentary from my mother. I'll see you all for my recap tomorrow. Bye bye!